I'm going to do it right now. All right. Thank you guys so much for attending. Again, if you just logged in, this is going to be about Poll Everywhere. I'm going to be giving an overview about this tool to help you create real-time polls that will engage your audience a little bit more. Again, if you weren't signed in earlier, Bridget McFadden is my co-host today. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box by hitting the chat icon on the bottom of your Zoom window. You can post any questions in there. Bridget's going to help me answer them as we go through today's session. One other thing that I will mention is we will actually be taking polls today during the presentation. So if you have an iPhone by you, an iPad, or you just want to open another browser window in your laptop or computer, we're going to be taking online polls. So just letting you know that so that you're ready to go ahead. I'll give you those instructions in just a bit. So what is Poll Everywhere? Poll Everywhere is the college's official web-based audience response solution, which is just a very fancy term for a polling app. So the way it works is you create the polls, you display them during your presentation, and the users, or the audience rather, can respond in a few ways. They can use a web browser to respond. They can use texting services like from their phone to answer. Note that I'll be talking about this a little bit later, but the text option isn't available for all questions, but it is available for the most common types. So you can have both of those options. There's also a Poll Everywhere mobile app that people can use to answer your polls. The app is really great if it's not required, certainly, to answer the polls, but it's great if you're, let's say, faculty or maybe a trainer who has several sessions with the same group of students or learners. And, they can just download this app. They'd be connected to, your kind of online poll classroom. And you would just display the polls and they would have access to them once they're set up in the app. And I can show you a little bit how that works later on in the demonstration. So polls are conducted live in real time. You can have audiences large or small doing this. By large, I mean several thousand people. So, I mean, there's you don't really have to worry too much about, any limitations in how many people can take your poll, unless you're, giving a presentation in a football stadium. But, other than that, most polls can be done with, various audience sizes. So why use Poll Everywhere? I think the best reason is that it's just a fun tool. I think we've all been in presentations where you kind of in the audience, maybe your eyes glaze over a little bit because, it's not as engaging as you hoped it would be. But when you throw out those polls and Poll Everywhere, people definitely start paying attention and they want to participate. So I think that is one of the biggest reasons to use it. You can also do knowledge checks and quizzes if you happen to be in a classroom setting. It's just a nice way to break up your session and make sure that people are paying attention and that they understand the material that you're presenting. You can also get immediate feedback from your colleagues. I have used Poll Everywhere for something as simple as asking my teammates, where do you want to go for lunch today for a group outing? And, they give immediate responses. You can also do this in a meeting with your colleagues about how they feel about certain parts of a project or things like that. So there's a lot of uses that you can use Poll Everywhere for. You can do team building activities. I actually helped a couple of departments develop, there's a competition mode in Poll Everywhere. I won't be able to get too much into that today, unfortunately, because it requires some setup in advance. But you can have a competition with people on your team and it's really fun. And, it's a great way to do a team building activity. And another thing about Poll Everywhere that I think most people like is that it's free. By free, I mean, it's already part of the supported services you can use. You do not have to request it from ITS to use it. You do not have to, it's not an extra charge that your department needs for you to access it. Right after the session, you can start using it today. So who can use Poll Everywhere? So there's two types of accounts. One is called a presenter account. That means that you can create the polls and you can display them to collect the feedback from your audience. And those presenter accounts are available to faculty and staff with an active seaweed and password. For students, it's a little different. They have access to something called a responder account, and that allows them to take polls, but they can't create them themselves. So we're going to try out some polls today. I'm going to leave this on the screen for just a bit, but you'll see that there is a URL right there, pollev.com/Vanessa. That's me. So if you have, again, a laptop, a smartphone, a tablet, and you just want to open a browser window while we are talking, feel free to do that. And I'm just going to leave this up for a minute. And while I'm waiting for you guys to access this URL, I'm just going to ask Bridget if she has any questions that we've gotten so far.
Not yet. I think we're
okay.
ready.
Perfect. If you guys happen to be ready at the URL, you can just ping me in the chat, just say you're ready to go or something, so I know that most people have accessed this. If you happen to see a poll, I may ask you to not take it yet because I don't think it'll work until I activate them.
We have some readies.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, I am going to move ahead. The URL is going to be at the top of every slide, so just in case you're still trying to get on, this won't be disappearing, but let's start taking some polls, guys. So here we go. All right, first, very hard-hitting question. What is your favorite Girl Scout cookie? Go. Yes, perfect. So I hopefully you guys can see it on the screen, and Bridget, please verify if you can, that you guys are seeing the results in real time. Right now, Thin Mints is about at 48%, and we're getting all of these in real time. I also have set up the poll if you want to try this out, where you can actually clear your last response and re-vote if you'd like. So if you want to test that out. But it looks like Thin Mints is the winner for this one. Oh, I see Samoa's is creeping up though. Okay. This poll is always interesting. There's always the answer is always different every time I do it. But good to know that Thin Mints is the winner here. That is also my personal favorite. I'm going to move on to the next poll. Okay, guys? So this is a fill-in, response type of question. So what TV show or series should I watch? We're still working from home quite a bit, many of us, and I need to know what I should put in my Netflix queue, guys. Can you make some recommendation? Oh, I love Twin Peaks, whoever put that. That's one of my favorite shows. Parks and Rec, I have not seen that yet. I've heard many good things. Ozark, I've been seeing that a lot on Netflix. The Hunters, I don't think I've heard of that. Another Ozark fan. Tiger King, I did see that one. The Office, yes, good choice. Better Call Saul, I think I have that one in my queue. I have to double check. Dead to Me. All right, awesome. But you guys are seeing now, you're posting these results and they are showing up on the screen for everyone to see. So again, another type of question. Oh, yes, I have to watch that one. So this is just another question type that I wanted to demonstrate. You can also put in, I think I set this up to accept emojis. So let me make sure that works. Oh, 90 Day Fiance. Let me see if my response goes through, or if not, there could be a few waiting in a queue and I'll just continue forward. All right, but I've got a lot of responses here, so awesome. I'm gonna move on to the next poll, okay, guys? So this one's a little more medically oriented. You just have to tap on your screen on the image I presented and tell me where the gallbladder is in this image. So tap anywhere on your screen. Perfect. So you guys can see that all of your answers are showing up on the screen and they're clustering in this type of image-based question. For this question is really cool because then I can actually show you the correct region right here. So about 64% of you got the answer correct. It's in this little shadowy area right here. 65% now. So those are 3 question types that I just kind of inserted into this presentation. And there are so many more, and I'm going to go into that right now. Before I head over to the Poll Everywhere site to show you how you can log in and start creating your polls, it's located at just polleverywhere.com. Okay, that's where you're going to log in, and I'm going to show you how to do that. If you have any questions about how to use the tool, obviously I'm here and I can answer any questions you have today. But as you're creating the polls, Poll Everywhere does actually have a great support site. Polleverywhere.com/support is fantastic. I highly recommend you check that out if you do run into any questions about how to set up your polls. If you have questions about your license in particular, or if you can't log into your account for some reason, then definitely contact ITS. Those are technical issues that we want to make sure that we resolve for you. And we do have, questions, or rather information about what your license allows for on our website, its.weill.cornell.edu. I think there was a question in the chat earlier about whether you'll get the slides and the presentation. I'm actually recording this session right now, so you'll have all of this information plus some links in an email after this to answer that question. Okay, so
we have a couple quick questions.
oh, sure, Bridget, go ahead.
Eliza Cohen asked, or she said, on my screen as a participant, I don't see responses. It shows me my response, but others aren't showing. Just want to confirm that is the correct view.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So if you're a responder to a poll, all you'll see on your screen is how you responded. But again, you're supposed to be in this presentation, so you would see the results on the presenter's screen. So that's how you would see how everyone answered.
And then one more from Neil. He just said, how did you do that? Neil, I'm not sure exactly what Vanessa did that made you ask that, but if you
hopefully my demonstration will answer that question.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to move very quickly to my browser. Give me just 1 second. Okay. So we're going to go to polleverywhere.com. All right. Let me log out really quick just so I can show you the entire process. So you're going to click login. And right here where you have to insert an email, you're going to do your Cornell one. All right. And hit next. So then you'll see the button changes and it says login with Weill Cornell. And that's going to take you to a very familiar login screen that you should all have, signed into a million times. So you're just going to do your seaweed and password, hit login, and then you'll be taken to your dashboard. Okay. I'm going to go through what all of this is right now, actually. But before I get into all of the polls and things like that, I want to take you over right here to the very right-hand side, this gear icon. These are your settings. And you'll notice that when you guys took my polls, it was pollev.com/Vanessa. When you open your account for the first time or log in for the first time, you're going to get an automatically generated username. Mine was not Vanessa to begin with initially. It was like a part of my name and then like a string of numbers and letters. And I thought that that was going to be too difficult for people to type in. I wanted something that was very easy to just type in. So you can actually go again to my settings in the gear icon. And then here, you can change this to any username that you would like that has not already been taken by a Poll Everywhere user. Somehow Vanessa, the name Vanessa was not taken, so I was able to put in my name and hit change. And then that changed my URL for all of my polls going forward. I would highly recommend when you have a chance and you log in, maybe to look at that username that you were given and make it something a little easier for people to type in to their screens. Again, there's a lot of settings here that you can go through. I won't go through all of them, but I will take you through just a couple to explain what they are. So if I hit branded response page, I actually changed my login window to just kind of reflect, the Cornell colors and things like that and have the logo. All of this information about colors and logos is available on the Weill Cornell branding website. So brand.weill.cornell.edu. And you can change this to whatever you like. If you don't want it to be Cornell, you don't have to have it that way, but likely you're going to be giving presentations, while you're at Cornell. So this is just something to think about. There's also international text messaging. If you happen to be giving, some kind of webinar or in-person presentation where there are international audience members, you can actually add, the country code for text responses to your slides, so that they don't have to, use an international text messaging rate to respond. So these are just, the countries that are available at the moment. Poll Everywhere adds more all the time, but this is definitely a cool resource to check out if you plan on having international guests at your presentation. There's also something called a features lab, and essentially these are features that Poll Everywhere is testing that if you want to try them out and see how they work, you can just turn them on if you would like. So this is, you know, definitely personal preference. But, you know, if you want to try out something different, then you can definitely come to the Features Lab and try it out. I'm going to go back to my dashboard. You can do that by hitting the Poll Everywhere logo in the top left. All right, so these are all of my polls in the middle. If you've signed in and you have not created any polls, obviously this will be blank for you, but as you create polls, they will show up here in the middle. I want to create a poll, so all I need to do is hit the Create button right here, and I'm taken to a new window where I basically have many different question types to choose from. If I click More, then they all appear. And I can click on any one of these and it changes, you know, the format to what that question type is like. I'm going to do a multiple choice question today because I think it's one of the most common question types that people use. So I've got multiple choice selected and I've got my formatting here ready to go for my question that I can just, you know, create anything I want. So my question today is going to be, I should say this. All right, so there's my question. And then right here, I can include the answers that I would like in the poll. So in this case, it's going to be, okay. All right, so those are my two options that I want. However, I can always add more options if I would like. I can move around the order just by clicking and dragging on the left-hand side and just moving them around. If there's a question or rather an answer that I don't want to include anymore, there's a little trash can icon here and I can delete it. And then you'll notice this photo icon. If I wanted to, I can actually upload an image as a response for people to vote on. In this case, there's no correct answer to this poll, but if there was a question that I asked that had a correct answer, I can actually just mark it correct and then reveal the correct answer in my presentation. In this case, there is not one. I want to know what your opinion is, so I'm going to turn that off. So that's my question. It didn't take me very long to create, but now I want you guys to take it. So how does that happen? So I'm going to go here to create. All right. I am taken to a new window. You will see that this poll is not ready to go yet. I can do a few more things to kind of configure it to my liking. But there's two ways to take polls in Poll Everywhere. So right now, I can actually just activate this poll right now in the web browser and have you take it. I mean, you can see my screen. You're still capable of taking it. It's the same URL. I also have text messaging here to join, which I'll show you how to do that. So you could take it in a browser like this online, or you can do what I did earlier and place it into a PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to show you how to do that in just a sec, but let me show you how to set it up first online, all right? Okay, so here's my poll. On the right-hand side here, you'll see Configure, Test, Present. Configure is the first thing you need to go through. So you have to determine how people can take your poll, all right? So here's where we get the options to add website or text messaging. I always recommend website. It's just, you know, everyone's got a smartphone these days or a smart device, and it's just easy for everyone to open up a browser for the most part and take your poll. Text messaging can be a little tricky. I'm not necessarily discouraging it, but one thing to note is that not every single poll type allows for text messaging. For example, that one I showed you earlier with the gallbladder, obviously you can't text message that answer in. So if you're going to allow for text messaging to be an option for your polls, you have to make sure that every question type allows for text messaging, all right? So you have to have like a bunch of multiple choice or you know, even the write-in answers you could do for texting. And you'll know which ones don't allow for it because you won't have this option available. So just something to keep in mind as you're taking your polls. You'll also notice that when I started my polls, I had a slide ahead of time that kind of told you how to access the polls and gave you a minute to log in. I recommend doing that as well, just because if you just start you know, activating your polls on the fly, it kind of is jarring a little bit to people in the audience, and they, you know, they need a minute to kind of catch up, and you know, log in or set up their text messaging. So you know, definitely give them a minute just to get to the right browser or to set up their texting, to join, and then start the polls. That's definitely something I recommend if you're going to be using this tool during your presentations. But anyway, moving forward, so you get to decide here how people respond. You can also restrict the audience if you'd like. So right now I have my polls open to everyone to take it. As long as they have my URL, they can take the poll. But you can restrict it to registered participants only. I can go into that a little later. But essentially, if you have a classroom, for example, and you only want the people in your class, the students in your class, to be able to take the polls, you can actually upload a list in Excel of just first name, last name, and emails to Poll Everywhere in the Participants tab. I'll be showing you that in a second. And then those people are part of a classroom that you set up, and they're the only ones allowed to take those polls. So most of the time, I feel for presentations, people will use everyone, no restrictions. But there are cases where you may want to limit who takes it. So just something to keep in mind. It's definitely your preference. And then there's auto-generated ID to identify participants, or completely anonymous. Auto-generated ID, although I don't know who answered my polls in my presentation earlier, I will get a little ID in the reports that tell me who answered what throughout the 3 polls. So I can tell that, like, this auto-generated number answered this way for all 3 polls. And if you want to be able to at least track that information, I would recommend leaving it on auto-generated. If it's completely anonymous, you won't really be able to track that detail from poll to poll. You may not need to, but it's just something to keep in mind as you put your polls together. In response settings, this is where you can determine if people can take your polls just once, as often as they'd like, you know, things like that. Will you let them change the answer? Things like that. Do they get a custom reply message? So there's a lot of different things you can change. In this case, I'm going to let you guys answer as many times as you like for this one. And you can also schedule and lock your polls if you would like. You know, you may have, you know, a poll for like a classroom setting, again, where you want it to only display for a certain amount of time and then turn it off. This is how you can do that. I personally don't use this very much, but it is an option that's available. All right. If you want, you can test your poll before you present it to people. And then if you put present, Poll Everywhere tells you how you can do that. So there's an easy way to present the poll and activate it from the browser, which is just you have an activate button right here. So you can only activate one poll at a time in Poll Everywhere, which makes sense because you're only showing one poll at a time on your screen. So I'm going to click activate, and you guys should be able to take this poll. All right. I'm actually going to see if I can full screen it. There we go. All right. Perfect. All right. So we've got some responses. It's kind of moving up and down, but it looks like most people feel it should be GIF. All right. Oh, okay. Woo. All right. It's going a little crazy. One thing that's kind of cool is that if you didn't want to show these results right away, there's actually a little button. I don't know if you guys can see it. That says show responses. I can actually hide that, and you'll see that I have 21 results total right now. And then if I wanted to kind of be dramatic and like reveal how everybody answered, I can do that. And I'm doing this all from the browser on the right-hand side. And these same little buttons on the right show up when you're doing your PowerPoint presentation too, so that you can do it from the presentation itself. Visual settings, if I click on that, that just allows me to change like the colors and formatting of my poll. I won't get into that too much just because it takes a lot of time to change the settings around. You can also lock a poll to prevent people from responding. And then clear responses is a very, very important button. So if you are giving a presentation and using the same polls over and over, Poll Everywhere keeps the responses of your last presentation. So every time you present the poll to a new audience, you need to make sure that clear responses is clicked before you present. So right now I'm going to clear the responses so they don't go away entirely. I at least have them saved in my report. But if I'm going to give this presentation again, I want to make sure that this shows up as blank before people see it in my next presentation. All right. So let me back out of here. Awesome. So any questions on how to create polls before I move on to the next part?
Yeah, Vanessa, just one from Lauren asking, how can we change settings so all polls are Weill Cornell Medicine branded?
Okay, so actually I think that when you log into your account, there should be Weill Cornell branding as the default on your polls. If there's anything that looks off, here in visual settings, you can actually change the color scheme, things like that. Using colors from the brand website, it'll tell you like the hexadecimal color for, you know, the oranges and the yellow and the red. But I don't think you actually have to do that in this case. I think that that branding is going to be default when you log in. So you won't have to do too much to make sure it's branded properly. All right. Any other questions that I can answer before I move on?
That's it for now.
Okay, awesome. I am going to show you now how to add the Poll Everywhere polls to a slide deck. So I'm back in my main dashboard, and here on the left-hand side, you will see something that says download the app. All right, this is to embed the polls into a slide deck, and you can do it from PowerPoint, Keynote, or Google Slides. All right, so you're just gonna pick the one that you use the most. So in my case, I use PowerPoint. I won't get into the whole install process, but basically what happens is you click this and you're led to the Poll Everywhere website where you can download a plugin, essentially a little app to help you use the polls, all right, on your PowerPoint, Keynote, or Google Slides. It works a little differently for a Mac and Windows, but I'm gonna show you what it looks like on a Mac and try to explain what it looks like on a Windows machine. So let me go back into my slide deck, all right? So I don't know if you can see this. Bridget, can you see the little Poll Everywhere app right here on my dock that I'm kind of
I do, yep, I can see it.
So this is the plugin that I downloaded prior to you know, my like presenting to you guys. All right. In order to use Poll Everywhere with a tool like PowerPoint, in the Mac and on a Mac computer, you have to make sure that you are logged in to this separate application. When you open it, it's going to do the same login process that you did for the website, where it asks you to do your Weill Cornell email and then log in with your CVD and password. So I'm already logged in. I need this to be, you know, basically activated at the same time as my Poll Everywhere slide deck right here. I'm going to minimize this really quick. All right. On a Windows device, you also download a separate app, but it will appear as a button here in like the toolbar of your slide deck application. All right, so you're gonna have a button up here for a Windows device that says Poll Everywhere, and you click it and you log in from there. So it's not a separate app like in the Mac right here at the bottom on my dock. In the Windows, it'll be a little button in the taskbar. All right. But in either case, you have to make sure you're logged in and that it's turned on so it can access your polls, all right? So I want to add that poll that I just made about how do you pronounce GIF. I want to add it to these three that I have here. So I have to make sure this is turned on, all right? Open it up, and I have to find that poll, which is right here, all right? I'm going to select it. And then it says insert activity, one slide. I can actually add more if I want to, but in this case, I just have this one slide that I want to add. So I'm going to insert it. All right. So you can see now that that Poll Everywhere has inserted this new poll that I created into my slide deck towards the bottom. I can move it just like any other slide in PowerPoint, you know, just put it where I would like. I'm going to put it at the end after the gallbladder one. And the way that you activate these polls, so you'll notice that there are these little kind of 4 squares in the corner of each of your slides. So that just indicates that it's a Poll Everywhere slide. Right now, it's not collecting any data because I have to activate it by putting it into slideshow mode. So if I put it into slideshow mode, you'll notice it kind of blinks out for a second. Give it a minute. Okay, so now those 4 squares are gone, so you'll know that it's activated. And again, these are the answers from the last time that we did this, just a little while ago. So if I wanted to do a new session, I'd have to make sure before I present just to clear the responses, okay? So now it just works like a regular slide deck. And as I go through it, I should be able to see that new poll that I created with you guys earlier, all right? Any questions about inserting polls into a slide deck?
No questions specifically about that, but we do have a couple.
Sure.
One, I'll shout out an observation from Andy Hickner on Windows. The Poll Everywhere icon is in the top ribbon after Acrobat, just for any of those users out there. And then let me scroll up. Vanessa's wondering, is there a way to see exactly who responded? For instance, if I'm doing a team competition, I would want to know who answered questions correctly.
Good question. Let me go back to the website. So you'll see at the very top, there is something called reports. All right. So these are all the polls that I recently launched. Okay. And you can see by, you know, date and everything like that, how long I've been collecting responses. I think this is a competition. Let me load the report. So essentially what you would do is you would select a run of when the last time you did this competition was. So you could do every time that you've launched it or the current time that you launched it. And then you've got report options here, you know, select who presented it, and then hit download. And then it spits out an Excel sheet of how everyone answered. Granted, if you're doing something like a competition, you have to set it up ahead of time to include those participant names. Because again, you saw that right now I've been doing polls that are basically anonymous. They'll have an auto-generated ID instead of a name. But if I wanted to add names of pre-registered people, I would do it this way. So I'm in my participants window right here. You'll see I've got some groups already set up on the side here. But I want to add a new group, all right? So I can add participants in a few ways. I can send them a link and have them sign up that way. Or I can import a spreadsheet of participants, which I tend to do that only because, you know, usually in advance, I know who's going to be taking a class of mine, let's say, and I'll hit import. So what's nice about Poll Everywhere is that it gives you like kind of a CSV spreadsheet that you can just have set up to fill out in the exact format it needs. I'm going to pull up that Excel sheet as soon as this icon stops bouncing around and loading it. Just give it a minute to think. But essentially, while it's thinking, all you really need is open. Let me move that one out of the way. Okay. I had too many Excel sheets open. Hold on, guys. Let's try one more time. Okay, perfect. So this is the Excel sheet that Poll Everywhere recommends, formatting wise, for you to input participant information. You only need these first three columns to be filled out. You do not necessarily need these. So you can even delete these if you don't need them. But essentially, you just have to make sure you have the, you know, your colleague's email, first name, and last name, okay? When you fill that out and you save it, you then go back to Poll Everywhere and choose that file to upload. You can make sure that the email instructions are emailed automatically to those participants, because what happens is you upload the names to Poll Everywhere, and Poll Everywhere spits out like an email to each person on that list telling them, hey, you know, Vanessa has registered you to take Poll Everywhere polls. Complete this information so that you're registered for it. And then I can add them to an existing group or just make a new one. I can make this Tech Tuesday test. And then everyone on that list will be part of this new group, okay? And hit create. All right. And then I just hit continue. And then Poll Everywhere will upload all of those names and send all of them the instructions via email, and we'll be ready to go. And I hope that answered your question.
Cool. She did. Yes, she says yes. Good. Thank you.
So
There are.
the reports,
Do I
you'll see those names. Yeah.
Do you want to take a couple more questions, Vanessa, or is there
Yeah,
more?
absolutely. Let's do
Okay,
it.
cool. Abdul is wondering, can you upload a file with questions instead of generating online?
Can you upload a file with questions? You can import questions here, a CSV file, and upload questions that way if there's quite a few. You may have to then go back into each question and configure it to the question type that you would like, but it is possible to import questions.
Cool. Neil asked, when you do not present from the computer that created the poll, does the server you're using at a meeting need to load poll everywhere as well?
Oh, hold on. Let me make sure I caught that. Let me just go into the chat really quick. Neil, when you do not present from the computer that created the poll. Oh, okay. So, I mean, because it's web-based, even if you're not presenting on the computer that created it, if you log into your account, you can present that way. So you don't necessarily need to be on the computer where you kind of originated the questions. But if you have them embedded into a slide deck, you just need to make sure that that Poll Everywhere plugin is also installed on the computer you're presenting from. Otherwise, it won't work. So if it's web-based, you'll be fine. You just log in as usual, and you should be able to present. But again, yeah, the slide deck, you need the application to do it from the new computer.
Great. And one more question from Lauren. Can you clarify the difference between locking and unlocking a poll versus activating a poll?
Okay. So to activate it just means to turn it on, so people can take it. If I lock a poll, it doesn't mean it's not activated. It just means that I turned it off for a moment to stop accepting responses. So if it's activated, it's still showing up on the screen for people to see, but I'm just not collecting the responses if I locked it, Lauren. I hope that answers your question. Awesome. Any other questions? So that's Poll Everywhere in a nutshell. I know it was a lot, but I think that once you get into it, it's pretty intuitive. You just start creating the polls. I think the trickiest thing is just if you're putting them in a slide deck, to make sure that you've got the app turned on and you're logged into it, just so that you can insert the polls. And then all you need to do from that point is just make sure that you are presenting from slideshow mode, and then your polls auto activate from there. I don't see any other questions. But that's okay. If you guys have questions after this, I will be sending out again the video recording and also some links that I hope you guys find helpful. There'll be different little guides and tips of how you can use Poll Everywhere for your own presentations. And if you do come up with any questions after this, just feel free to respond back to me at any time. Oh, Finesse, can you review competition mode if you have time? That requires a lot of setup, Finesse, and we only have 4 minutes left. I don't think I could do it in 4 minutes, but Finesse, if you would like, I could set up a session with you privately just to kind of show you how it works, if that works for you. Awesome. Okay.
Vanessa, real quickly, I just got one privately from Nira. Can you show again how to activate the app to download Poll Everywhere to PowerPoint?
Oh, sure. So right here on my page, on my dashboard, right here where it says download the app, you just pick the tool that you use the most. I'm going to go to PowerPoint just so you guys can see it. Poll Everywhere has already identified that I'm on a Mac. If you were on a Windows, it would say download for Windows. So you just hit download. I'm not going to do it because I already have it installed. But all you do is hit this button, and then it installs that app onto your own device. And then you would just open it up and log in so that you can start using it. Again, for Windows, it's a button on the taskbar on the ribbon. And then for Macs, it's a separate application that'll show up in your dock.
Great, thanks, Nira.
All right, I think that was all the questions. Did I miss any, Bridget? Or
No, just a couple. Actually, Suzanne shared a tip. If you have a series of repeated questions, oh, it's a question, sorry. If you have a series of repeated questions, can you cut and paste? For example, if you're evaluating several faculty members.
Let me think about that situation. Evaluating several members. You mean, can you just copy paste the poll, like duplicate the poll maybe, so that you don't have to write the same one over and over? Okay, I think I get it. All right, let me go back into my polls. So if you have a question type, I guess that you want to repeat multiple times, let me click this one really quick. So I have this one selected. Where is the gallbladder located in this image that you took earlier? I can duplicate it and then go back and edit them if there are any like minor changes to each one, Suzanne, if that is what you are asking about. Does that clarify a little bit, or?
She said, okay. It sounds like she's asking, like giving the same poll to different doctors.
I mean, you
I'm
can
not
create
sure.
the same question,
Right.
over and over by that way, and then put them all in one poll together, and then present that to people. Oh, Dara just asked, can you have both WCM and private PE accounts? Oh, okay. This is a good question, Dara. So you can have a private poll everywhere account. That being said, you should not be using your Weill Cornell email address for your private account. So let's say you did have a private account in the past with Poll Everywhere, and now we have this enterprise account that's available to Weill Cornell Medicine faculty and staff and students. What'll happen is when you try to log in with your Weill Cornell information, it'll revert back to that free account that doesn't have quite as many options as the enterprise account. That doesn't mean we can't convert it. So if you want your free account that was using your Weill Cornell email to now be part of the enterprise account, you would just need to send a ticket to ITS explaining the situation, and then that will be corrected by one of our Poll Everywhere admins, and they'll reach out to you and confirm that you now have the enterprise account instead of the private one. Any other questions? I think I got them all. But we are about at time. Oh, can you have a Gmail account? Yeah. So Dara, if you want to just create a new account, a free account with your Gmail, that works fine. Yeah. Alrighty, we are at time. So I'm going to wrap it up. But thank you guys so much for attending. Thanks for the great questions. And thanks to Bridget for helping me go through all the questions as well. Making sure everything was being presented on the screen okay. Again, I'm going to be sending out the recording of this at the end of the day, along with some helpful tips. And if you have any questions, just hit reply, and I will do my best to help you guys. So thank you so much, and have a great day.